Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Con Magician, and this is going to be an interesting video. Probably not very long, won't talk about a whole lot here that may be relevant to you, but I wanted to share, my daughter is going to be turning 9 here this next month, and she'd asked for her birthday, she asked for a magic kit. And I mean, you can probably think about the magic kit that maybe you got when you were a kid about that age. And I mentioned this to my wife, and she said, "Oh, well, look online or look at the stores and, pick one out." And I said, no. Now, those magic kits that you buy at the store, even the really good ones, they generally are filled with kind of toy-like tricks. You have the classic ball vanishing vase that every kid had. You have the nails through coin, there's kind of cheap plasticky looking things. Now there are some companies, I know Murphy's has gone a long way to produce some tricks that are child oriented. They're like those toy tricks, but they're slightly better aesthetic and quality than what we used to get. I think I got a finger chopper. It was a cheap plastic thing, and of course you can't really buy things like that as much anymore in a kid's magic kit. It came with I don't think mine came with a thumb tip, although today they come with thumb tips a lot. They're usually too big. They're usually kind of the standard thumb tip that's just thrown in there, very hodgepodge. I remember magic kit that I got came with a handful of what I would consider to be optical illusions. They weren't really tricks at all. But just optical illusions that are kind of interest that you could show somebody, but it's not an effect of any type. And I always found those disappointing. They usually come with a magic wand, but not really a lot to apply it to. No real use for that. The type of thing. And some of them, they used to come with like a plastic top hat, that would get cracked and broken within a month of purchasing that. And then there would usually be a trick deck of cards, sometimes like a Svengali deck, or they used to have the DeLand's mechanical deck would come in some kits, and the mechanisms that it operated under were usually too complicated for a kid to really grasp or have it or carry enough interest to grasp and then use. I used mine just for the stripper deck properties, and that was about it. So a lot of things went to waste. Now there were sometimes some really good effects. I remember there was a binary sorting effect. That was the first time I came across the binary sorting, where you had a bunch of cards and numbers on the card. A person would think of a number, and then through the binary sorting principle, you would identify the number that they're thinking of. It was a really, really weak application of the principle, the kind of the bare bones application of it. But as a principle, I always thought that was a nice one. There's better ways to use that now. We've talked about that on the channel before. I know one of the more current ways to use that one is with receipts, and I think the ED-Seat gimmicks that you can get out there. I shared a while back, I actually had that idea to create a set of receipts for that reason, and then here Craig Petty marketed that exact effect. And I remember that he wasn't really the first to use it in that way either. It had been marketed as part of some other publication before that. But anyway, those are the kinds of things you get in those magic kits. And I said, I don't think so. I said, I can do better than that. So I put together a magic kit. This is in actually the most expensive thing for me was the pencil box. So I bought a pencil box, about a $15 pencil box. It's got aluminum edging on it. It's not very big because they don't need to be very big. It's nice and tight, and it exactly holds the things that I put in here. So I'll share with you what I put in it. And there's not a lot of individual items in here. There are enough individual items, but the way I think is that with a deck of cards, you can actually get quite a few tricks out of that. So you supply a deck of cards and then maybe a list of tricks and a breakdown of a way to do a handful of tricks with a deck of cards, and maybe another deck of cards, so that they might be two different kinds of trick decks that do two slightly different branches of magic, and that gets you a really, really long way. And then I left out a lot of the hokey kinds of things. I had no optical illusions. These are just tricks. So just a handful of tricks that would give enough time to really do a show. Several shows, actually, if you account for all the card stuff that were in there, if she ever wanted to do a talent show kind of thing or something like that. So, and things that are small enough and compact enough to carry around with you, just to interest people when opportunity arises and just have some fun with it. So this is what I put in here, and I think that there's a lot of things that could go into something like this. I've seen people do videos about doing a starter magic kit for adults, some for kids, what to put in it, what not to put in it, whatever. This is not some kind of definitive thing. What I did is I just took things that I knew I had that weren't getting any use, that I thought would be very good for her, and I incorporated them in here, and I grabbed a few new things. I made a few things as well that I put in here that I thought would be really, really solid. So this is what I got. So you open it up, opens flat, and just a few things that sit exactly enough stuff to fit in here compact. So I'll go through each thing one at a time here. And so the first thing I put in there was I thought this would be good. I had a pen. It's not a pen through anything. I think this was marketed as the B2 Bomber. It does not write anymore, and I even for the short period of time that I ever used it, I never wrote with it. I never actually used the ink in it. But this is it's a pen through dollar kind of effect, and I don't know if this is still on the market, but they certainly have things like this. The pen through anything, I think, is still on the market. It's that typical kind of effect, and it's kind of a chunky thing that would be easy for a kid to handle. It's not small, and it looks a lot like the kinds of pens that she would carry around in a pencil box or a pen case or something like that. So there's that, and I came up with a really, really simple. So that's another thing I have to say, is that I didn't put anything in here that I couldn't come up with a simple handling for a child to be able to do. So at least one good handling that was sufficient enough to make the effect work well. So that's what I did. I've got so there's this pen through bill or through paper effect. Another thing I put in here, I actually made this a while ago. This is a rendition of the hot rod. I featured this on a video a couple years ago, actually, and I made it really for that video, but I haven't used it since. It's my take on the hot rod, but it uses symbols. If you look at that, it actually uses kind of keyboard type symbols. There's a question mark, equal sign, plus sign. There's a little circle, a division sign, an at sign on there. And it is set up to force the circle, and I actually have a presentation to do that I think is improved, and I think a kid could easily do this. You just kind of have to learn the script, very short script question that you have to ask, and then there's an out if it doesn't hit, and you can go to the classic six object force to get down to what you need. I also am going to go over what I call the little tutorial here. The paddle move. You got to do the paddle move, and the paddle move can be a little complicated for kids, especially on something that's more flat like this. But this is the moveless paddle move, where you can show here that you have all the symbols on this side and then also on this side up here, right? So it's a paddle move that is not, there's no move at all. You merely just rotate your hand around like this rather than actually turning the item. So, and then of course for the change, it can be placed into the hand and turned over and pushed out from the thumb to do a change. So there are many options to do this in such a way that does not require complex handling. I can teach the complex handling for her to practice, but I wanted it to be surefire and not frustrating. So anyway, I'm gifting this to her because it seems like a really, really good. I think it just looks nice as a device. It looks very old school. It does not look like a plasticky, cheap prop. It looks like a classic kind of drugstore shelf puzzle sort of item. It's a piece of wood. It's a real piece of wood. There's nothing stuck to it. Everything is kind of inked in or burned into it. So that's my hot rod. And another kind of old-time classic that I thought was good, it's this little film canister gag with I don't remember the names of these effects, but I remember I got this when I was young, and I found it. It's in really good shape. But you have a die, and the spectator takes a die and they put it into the film canister with a number facing up, and then they put the cap on it, and then this gets shown that it's secure, and then that's placed into another one, and then the performer takes it and they're able to divine what the number is. It's facing up on the die. So yeah, it's a nice, what I like about this, I don't like proppy sorts of things, right? Like this is a normal looking thing. This is a proppy thing, but like I said, I think it's justified as kind of a conversation piece. It looks old time puzzle-like. It does not look like those plastic hot rods, or as they make them now, they make color sticks that have like stickers on them, and of course the stickers will dry out and fall off. I thought this looks like something that Grandpa had that you can talk about. But what I like about it is that for its proppiness, it actually looks like a fairly ordinary object. You can call it a film canister. I don't know the size of film that you would put in canisters like this, but you could say these are old film canisters, and that's sufficient. They don't look like they're made for a trick. And I don't like things that look like they're made for a trick. I have one thing in here that does look like it's made for a trick that I just kind of threw in to top it off. But in general, I like to avoid that stuff for myself. And if I like to avoid it for myself and I kind of despise that kind of stuff as a kid, I don't want to give it to my kid. So that's another one. So that's 3 tricks. 2 tricks outright, one that's got a little bit of a routine, a couple of phases in it for the hot rod. That gets you some good mileage. Another thing in here, I have, actually I'm going to give her a coin set. This is a copper-silver coin set. So I've got a silver, this is a Morgan replica, and a ancient kind of Victorian penny replica. And I bought this for her, and then the gaff, the gimmick that you need. And I have a handling that is surefire, slightless kind of handling that begins, you begin dirty but you end clean. And I think it's good for a kid to end clean. If you can have something for a kid to perform that ends really, really clean, yeah, they'll be a lot happier. So this ends clean, where you end with the only things in play without slights are the 2 regular coins that can be passed out. Then if she wants to learn other stuff to do with coins, I think I was about that age when I first learned the French drop, so that's something we can learn and go over. The coin through elbow gag, coin through the pant fold, or the disappearing coin from the pant fold. There's a few different things that I could probably teach her with a coin, even a coin that's kind of larger this size. She's tall for her age, and she's bigger features, bigger hands. So I think that this will be good. I kind of wished when I was a kid that I had larger coins to use, because even now as an adult, I rather use larger coins because I feel like I can grab them better. I have more control over the larger coins. So kind of big coins for that. So that's a coin set for her that we can do at least the one trick with using the gimmick, but possibly some other things to work on. This is the one thing in here that is more of an intriguing puzzle than it is an effect. I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's a mystery box. There is some potential to do a trick with this with like a coin. I have not really sorted out kind of a routine for that. But you could use it as a vanishing device for a quarter or something like that. You probably have to incorporate some slights. Maybe a $50 can fit in there. I'm not sure what you could fit, but certainly a quarter. can fit into this. But the gag is, it's a mystery box. You can shake it and there's something inside, and they can shake it and there's something inside. But when you open it up, you can see that it's empty. There's nothing in there. It's completely empty, and there's certainly some handling where you can pass this out and then the thing comes back. So as a vanishing device, or just as an intriguing sort of item without a routine, it is a fascinating kind of device. And you can show it opening it either way, so it doesn't really matter which way you open it, cap down or cap up. So that's in there as well, just as kind of a interesting illusion, a puzzlement. Another thing I put in here is, like I said, the magic kits for kids often come with thumb tips, and they're usually the standard thumb tip that they put in there, so they don't fit right. They're much too big for a kid. This is a fingertip. So this is actually a fingertip. It's an adult fingertip. It's intended to be put on the finger and then used in this way. It's a very light color, very kind of juvenile sort of color to it. And this should fit her thumb actually quite well. For me, this is the kind of thumb tip that I would need to use if I wanted to seal it for fluid, if I wanted to put liquid or something into it, which I never do and I never will do. This will fit on my thumb and seal at the knuckle. But for her, it should fit on complete. And then I included with that, notice I did not put a 6-inch silk in here. The one thing about that is I despise just the idea of the 6-inch silk in terms of everyday kind of carry. It just seems so out of the ordinary for anybody to have something like that on you. It almost seems to point to the method, the presence of that 6-inch silk that you put into, that every thumb tip comes with, that comes in a magic kit. So, and the other thing about that is that, honestly, the vanishing of the silk is hardly ever taught well. When it is taught, the handling is taught poorly. It doesn't teach the proper subtleties to make it look good. And then there's also risk. That silk bears a lot of risk in getting it in there the right way and getting it entirely in there and getting it in there so that you can get it back out again, particularly for a kid. I've seen a lot of adult magicians perform at kids' parties, children's magicians, that really flub up vanishing a silk. There is something complicated about dealing with something that big in all the corners and getting things tucked in the right way, doing it properly and doing it in a way that actually looks good. So instead what I did is I put a bright red pom-pom, and I found a pom-pom that was just big enough, or rather small enough, that it would go in and not get stuck. This dumps out freely, and that was very, very important. So rather than have a silk, you could do an effect with a pom-pom where you would do very much the same thing. You could take the pom-pom and very cleanly put it into the hand, right? Put it in the hand, in subtlety, show the free hand empty in subtlety, and vanish it very, very cleanly. And of course, bring it back in a very, very simple way where you can dump it back out into someone's hand. So a very, very, very clean handling with a thumb tip that I think a kid can handle. And I think just a better, if you're going to introduce a prop that's magic-like, I think this is more interesting, more fascinating, easier to handle, more direct, something that you could keep in a pocket and say, hey, check this thing out. I got this little magic pom-pom, this little magic thing, right? Whatever you want to call it. So there's that. Another thing, just for those of you who do thumb tip magic and want something to vanish, a small item, you could actually probably manufacture using some rubber or some hot glue or something like that. You could make like a magic bean, something that is rubbery, that doesn't make a lot of sound, that you could drop into a thumb tip that's about this size and will fall out easily, but a small item that can fit into the tip of a thumb tip. Something that if you're going to introduce a prop, at least have some motivation. You know, you can, as a children's magician, you could talk about magic beans and fairy tales and things like that, or a pea or something like that, and then use that sort of item. Something small but bright colored, something that's really, really easy to see. That's my idea, pom-pom for her. So before we look at the cards, we'll look at the cards last. I have 2 decks of cards in here. They're both special decks. I didn't put a plain deck in here. One of them is close to a plain deck. The other one is highly gimmicked. We'll talk about that in a minute. This was the only kind of child's magic sort of thing that I put in there. I had this. I don't remember how I got it. It's a little picture frame, and there is it's got like a cover that goes on the front. It kind of looks like it's boarded up, like it's a picture that's got a board that's put over the top of it, like for a painting, museum painting that's being transferred from one place to another, that's in transit. And the idea here is that you can put an envelope or a prediction in there, and then you can cover it up, and then something's going to change it, with it. This actually has a small painting of Van Gogh self-portrait, and you can put it in there facing up, put this on, and then take it off after some sort of story, and then they take out the picture, and the picture is upside down. The picture has on its own reversed, sealed away inside of the picture frame with the cover on it. So this is really this is a slightly more acceptable, in my mind, rendition of the vanishing egg in the vase, the vanishing ball, or the dove pan kind of concept. So that's what's going on here. There's a false, a fake in there, and it actually, I mean, this actually is somewhat convincing, I think, for some people, if you use it in the right way with the right presentation, where you could put it on there, take this off, set it down, and then show the outcome, and it might actually work and fool the right audience. But I thought she would like this. I thought she would look at that and find that to be... I mean, in a child's magic kit, I really resented all the extreme toy stuff that was in it, but there was something kind of cool about having toys. So this is the one toy kind of thing that I put in there. Another thing in here is a notebook. It's a notebook. It's got a Disney sticker princess on it. And what this is a notebook that has, and it's actually, I put the sticker on there for a reason, so that I could teach a handling that would be very easy using the sticker. Actually, the sticker helps you know where to hold the pad. But you can see that it actually has names written on there. These are all Disney princesses or Disney characters, right? These are all would be thematically appropriate to a kid. So these are all Disney princesses all the way through. And you have the obvious result here is you have them lift up, and they can look and take a look at the princess that's on there, and they see it, and they memorize it, and they think about it, and then I'll teach a routine to divine what that is. It's a Sven pad. So it's a Svengali pad with that's set up with Disney princess names on it, where she can always force Belle. Belle is always the force on that, and Belle is on the cover to help her remember which one it is. And the sticker is actually designed, just to teach a little bit, the sticker is actually designed that she should pinch at the top of the sticker and push down to show all of the options, and then she should pinch at the bottom of the sticker, and she should spread up and have them say stop. And this does not show, pinching from this point does not show the names. And then once they say stop, then she can lift at that to show the name that it's arrived at. So the sticker actually gives some geography that I can help in the teaching, so that she can nail this every time without making any mistakes. So that is a Svengali pad for that effect. And then the last things I'll talk about here are the decks of cards. So I'll get to this one. This is a bicycle deck, and this is a special one I'll talk about in a minute. It's a regular deck of cards. These are paper cards, but what I thought about was, in my experience as a child with magic kits and buying decks of cards at that time, they did not have plastic cards. And I like plastic cards even for the stuff I do. I carry plastic cards all the time. I've kind of gone almost universally plastic. Some people that do certain kinds of card magic would prefer strongly to have paper cards. But as a kid, I did not like that I got these paper cards, and after a couple of years of use, they would get creases in them. They would get kind of soggy and warped, and they were junk. And I wasn't doing anything really complicated with them where I needed to fan cards or anything like that, but they just became unusable. They looked ugly and gross, So I wish they had plastic cards when I was a kid. So I'm giving her a Bicycle Prestige deck. But this Bicycle Prestige deck has a couple of features. It is a marked deck. This is a marked deck. And you would not know what the markings are, and it's a really solid marking system, but they're readers. So this is a reader marking system so that she can look at it and know exactly what it is without any kind of code. It literally just says what the card is on the top. This is using, I believe it's the Pete McCabe marking system. So if you know what that is, you'll understand where it's at. But it's marked in opposing corners and can be seen from a fan. And these are not seen by someone who doesn't know it's not there. It just, you would not know what the markings are. So very clearly marked readers that I custom made just for her from a plastic deck. And this should last her a very long time and can take kind of a little bit more abuse and use over time. The other thing I put in here is I actually put in a one short joker. So there's a joker that is short two ways. So it's short on the long side and on the short side, and that way that can go in as a key card. And I can teach the key card principle where the deck could be shuffled by someone. They could take a card out. She can take it back, and she can separate it at the key, have them then place their card on, lose it in the deck, and then have that key to be able to get back to it. So a nice little gap. You might think, well, why not give her a double backer or something like that? I want to give her a utility that is useful in many different ways that's normal inside the deck. The card can sit in the deck, but as a key, any way that you can use a key, you can use this key. And I just find that a gaff like this is just far more useful than something like a double backer, which not only has kind of limited type of usage, it also is a slight gaff. It is a gaff you use to do particular kinds of sleight magic and manipulation. And that's not what we're going to be focusing on with a 9-year-old. It's going to be much more basic, hands-off kinds of principles. And I thought that as a gaff, this would be a much stronger one for her to use. And it's one that professionals use, short cards. So, and short cards, by the way, if you haven't heard me mention this before, short cards and double thick cards also work remarkably well with plastic decks. So plastic cards and double thicks and shorts are really, really, really solid. So what I'm going to do is give her probably 5 or 6 tricks that are very different looking that use the marking system. So a few tricks that use marking system plus that key, probably a couple tricks to use that key. And then that'll give her plenty of card magic to use with a really, really good deck of cards that will last a really, really long time. And it's in and it's not like the Blackstone Magic deck, right? That's what we used to get in the Magic kits. It would always be some kind of, it looked like a Magic kit deck of cards. It was a bridge deck. It was smaller, and it had some kind of magician-y sort of figure on the back. You know what I'm talking about? This is a bicycle deck, and it'll last a long time, and it's got a lot of features to it. So that is the kind of more normal deck I'm giving her that has markings on it. And then I'm giving her this, and you might kind of raise your eyebrows at my doing this, but I actually considered the options here with this possibility, and it seems really sound. This is a bicycle deck. It's a paper deck. This is a Mark Paul deck, what I call the Mark Paul deck. This is a deck of cards that is designed for some remarkable revelations from cards that are thought of. That seems like it's way outside the wheelhouse of a kid, but I have to say Mark Paul's thinking that went into this is so accessible, a kid could do it. And the magic looks like top shelf magic. So imagine that you take the cards and you spread them on the table, or you spread them face down. I'm going to give her a handling that really, really makes this simple. Mark Paul would spread them in the hands and have someone look at the cards. My handling for this is to lay them flat, spread them down, and then move your hand and have someone say stop. And when you stop, you push out a group of cards and then hold that group up and have them look. And this does several things. It allows for the secret to be completely hidden. With Mark Paul's and probably the more mature kind of presentation, the secret is in the open, and it requires some audience management to disguise it. In this case, by doing it this way, you have a group of cards, and from that group, they look at it and they think of a card. You could have more than one person think of a card, right? And then from that, you have a revelation for every card in the deck. You could get easily, I think, with interaction and talking, you should be able to get a half hour's worth of magic out of this. If you are doing table hopping at a restaurant, this could be the only deck of cards you have. And if you just kind of go all in on this method for magic, you could have something like this and be good for the night and not do a single blessed slight at all. And all of the hits will be really, really hard. And it's all from cards that are thought of, that are seen inside the deck. So I'm giving her this, and there is a good solid amount of magic that can be done with this. And I'm doing this on the assumption that she would probably just do a trick with the deck, one or two tricks with somebody with this. Obviously, you can't examine it, but it does appear quite normal in terms of handling and spreading backs facing up, and then what you can see out of it. So 2 decks of cards, one good gaffed deck that gets you a lot of really good slightless magic that's really hard-hitting professional quality tricks and revelations, and then one more regular deck that is marked and then has a short gaff in it to do a few other key kinds of things. So that's the kit. That's everything in the kit. And I think there's way more in this kit than what comes in the average magic kit when you really parse out what can be done, particularly with the card stuff. A few things that can be done with the coin set. A couple of individual one-off tricks. You've got one off here, one off here, one off here. Small routine with the hot rod. Relatively one off here, but then there's things that she can learn to do with the thumb tip. I could probably give her several other tricks just using the impromptu thumb tip, like things that we've discussed on the channel before. So this is one off with this, but then there's probably half a dozen additional tricks she can do with that. One off with the Sven pad, one off with the picture frame, and that's not true. The picture frame could actually do several tricks because it's a device. It's actually a tool. It's a switching device that could do a couple of different things. It's kind of one-off with the trick as it is, but that could be used for other kinds of presentations as well. And then we've got solid 15 to 20 minutes, half hour at the most if you're a good talker, worth of magic. Do a whole show with that. And then a half a dozen good tricks that you can do with the markings on this, plus just other regular tricks that you can do. I'll probably put together a handful of just regular card tricks, a couple of self-working ones that she can do, maybe teach her a few open controls that she can handle as well. So anyway, that's a magic kit for the nine-year-old, soon-to-be 9-year-old. So anyway, if you post your thoughts in the comment section. If you have any other ideas, or I probably won't change much at this point, but if you have any other ideas or any recommendations or any thoughts on this, or any kits that maybe you've put together for young people before, and some things that you learned in that process, go ahead and post that. And anyway, good luck with that. And one last thing. It's got a little set of keys because that's another thing. A magic kit has to contain all of the secrets and keep them safe, right? That is part of our code that we stick to. So there's a little key, and she'll love that she can lock that up and keep that safe and keep that out of the hands of anybody else. And it's pink, so she likes pink. So anyway, yeah, good luck with that. Any thoughts that you might have, go ahead and post them, and I wish you happy magicking.